given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business. Not because they want to do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shit.
How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Guys, great discussion today. We're going to be talking about if you have authority, if you're in that supervisory role, how that authority has got to be partnered with confidence. Without no confidence, your position of authority can actually pose a threat to the facility. I actually have two great guests that are going to partner with me in this dialogue. We have the ever so famous, and can I tell you something, guys? You can't see, but she started laughing thinking I was actually talking about her. So that's where the ego has gone, because I wasn't talking about her. I was talking about this. No, I was talking about her, actually. We do it almost every episode. So Connie, Alleyne, the famous author. What's going on?
Oh, God. Hi, everybody. Connie, Alleyne here. I am the founder and president of the Civilian Corrections Academy, and I'm the author of The Cage Was Her Cocoon. And I'm excited to talk about confidence in leadership tonight, just because that's what we do. We talk about those topics that, you know, are a little, I don't know, you got to think critically about them. And so it's good to get that conversation going. I look forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a very good dialogue. And we also have, we haven't seen him in a while, college professor, retired major. Oh, man, the list goes on with this gentleman. Professor, wait for it, Louis Soto.
Thanks again, Gangi. Thank you for having me on. Always enjoy our chats. And yeah, it's a great topic. You know, it's a great topic. You obviously need confidence in order to be a great leader. So I'm ready to dive right into it.
Hey, guys, some great news, too. We've been invited, the panel has been invited to speak at a conference that's happening in Arizona. It's going to be sometime in October. I'll be posting more as we get closer. But it's going to be a great panel. We're going to be discussing many topics, very interactive. We have a 3-hour discussion time. It's virtual. That means you don't have to be in Arizona to participate. And it's going to include myself, Louis Soto, Connie, Alleyne. We're also going to bring in William Young, Gary York, and Russ Hamilton. I think it's going to be a great dialogue. We're honored. But again, as we get closer, I'll give you guys a little bit more specific. Have the book on the market, guys, Inmate Manipulation. The link's in the description. It's doing very well. I'm actually happy with the outcome, with the reviews that I'm getting, because really it is about getting the word out there and hopefully saving some jobs. So I'm proud that the book is doing what it was meant to do. Now, guys, if you haven't, the show Tier Talks for you, brave men and women that work in corrections. So please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. We're going to go to our sponsor. When we come back, we're going to talk about confidence and how that needs to be partnered with your position of authority. Stand by.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it. It's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
All right, and we're back, guys. So the reason why I got this was I did get a message from someone who's getting ready to move up, and they're excited. And I guess as they start to get closer to, getting that rank, because I believe they're going to become a sergeant or that frontline supervisor position, they're starting to get nervous, which happens to us all, because I think they're starting to get overwhelmed by the concern that they're going to make a bad choice. And I think people, when they get so wrapped up in making a mistake or a failure, they kind of think that, well, maybe I'm not good enough to be in this position. And there you start to lose the confidence. So it got to the point where this person's so overwhelmed by that they're actually thinking about not taking the position. So the person sent me this message in confidence, and I thought we could do the dialogue for this person. So I'll start with Connie first. But Connie, obviously, when you take a supervisory role, I mean, I would like to think, before you take that position, obviously you should have some level of confidence in this profession, because confidence should be developed before you grab into that supervisory role, right? I'm assuming as a frontline, you start to build on the routines and understanding of the job, and things start to become automatic. And with that, that automaticity, now what happens is you start to build that confidence, because you just know what to do. that routine. But then obviously when you step into that new role, I think people think that that new role is a total 180. You know, that like I don't have, like my foundation doesn't matter, and now I got to totally readjust. And I think people start to become afraid, thinking that there is really a huge paradigm shift. Do you think that's the case?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think there's a huge paradigm shift, though. I think we have to be mindful that our learning is going to always be cumulative, right? And we just continue to build on what we've learned. And I think it's that knowledge base, as it broadens, that helps you build confidence in your decisions. You're confident in what you know, right? But I think, you know, just to take it back a step, I think what we also want to bear in mind is that you need to learn about leadership, right? Like not necessarily leadership in your facility, but what does leadership look like? What should that entail? I think that sometimes people have a perspective of leadership based on what they may have experienced. And if you've never taken a moment to just kind of read a little something about leadership, you know, it gives you some insights into things that you didn't even realize was part of being a leader, right? You know, and beyond learning about leadership, I think it matters that you know what your own strengths and weaknesses are, because then those are some gaps that you can intentionally fill as you step into this role. And when you fill those gaps, those things that no one else knew are making you vulnerable no longer make you vulnerable, and your confidence is there because you know that you're filling the gaps in some vulnerabilities that could possibly lead you down a road where you're not feeling so comfortable on the job or so confident in your decisions.
Yeah, I think a lot of people figure that when they come into the supervisory position, that they have to already come in with a plan of who they need to be and what they need to do. And I may disagree with that, but I want to get, I do disagree with that, but I want to get your thoughts on that. So do you think that, you know, a lot of people think that before they step into the supervisory role, that they need to already know who they need to be as a supervisor and what they need to accomplish? You think that could be a case for some?
So let me start by saying that if you are thinking or have aspirations of becoming a supervisor, you've taken the first step, right? Because you have to make a pathway for yourself. And that pathway starts with our own minds. If we make up our mind that that's something that I'm aspiring to be, then you're on your way, right? And then you have that question that you can research it, people talk about it. Are leaders born or are leaders made, right? And when you think about it, yeah, there's people that come out and through their experiences in life, just like Connie said, cumulative, right? They learn how to be those front people, those people that people look up to. And yes, we think of them as leaders, but there's plenty of information out there that can help someone to become a great leader. And usually, you know, those of us that don't have those traits to start off with can always work on them just a little bit more so we can be great.
Right. And I also think, like, you know, like, so for me, I think what helped me out was I had pretty much confidence in the fact that what made me, or what brought me into that supervisory position, was a good foundation. So I didn't think that I had to start off or start over. I think Connie kind of touched on I thought I did have a purpose. I thought that I could definitely, you know, fill in some gaps, but I also didn't go in with a plan of who I needed to be or where I'm going to be the most effective, because to be honest with you, I didn't know, because I wasn't in the position, you know, and I still didn't know within the first, you know, few weeks or months even, because again, you're still trying to understand the position. So the last thing I'm trying to do is, you know, try to create change. I'm actually going back to being an apprentice again, you know, trying to learn things all over again, not looking to shine, not looking to be a star. And then once I get the routine in, then my mind starts to kind of free itself up to understand where else, you know, I may be of value. And again, I think what helped me out there is during those routines, believe it or not, you start making very small decisions. And believe it or not, each small decision kind of brings about more and more confidence. And I like me and Connie had a discussion before, and maybe Connie can comment on this. But the funny thing is, it's not so much the confidence doesn't come with so much making the decision. The confidence we figured comes from taking responsibility for the decision. So to me, yeah, even though you do it on the front line. You are going to be responsible for the decisions you made. When you start moving up, your decisions may not only just involve you, they may involve the people that you supervise. So, that to me adds a higher level of responsibility to the decisions that you are making. But Connie, I thought that was spot on when it comes to confidence behind the responsibility that comes with each decision you make.
Yeah, so I think it really matters that when you're making decisions, especially being a newer person to leadership or to management, that you've done your due diligence ahead of time and that you are confident that you've made the best decision with all the information you've had access to. And whatever the outcome is to that decision, you can take full ownership of it because you've made that decision with all the information you had at your disposal at the time. And I think that's part of that building the confidence of having that self-awareness, right? And knowing that, you know what, I did the best that I could, and whatever the outcome is, I'm going to learn from it. It's not going to mean that I'm not a good manager or I'm not a good leader. What I am going to do is take the lesson that I need to learn and apply it to the next time a similar situation presents itself.
And Soto, obviously you're going to have setbacks, you're going to make mistakes. And sometimes when you make a mistake as a supervisor, it's a lot heavier than it would be as maybe just a frontline professional, because when a supervisor makes a mistake, sometimes it's hard to hide because the mistake could have a ripple effect, being that the supervisor does have those that are underneath them. So sometimes when a supervisor makes a mistake, someone may immediately feel the outcome of that mistake. So again, the supervisor, I believe, definitely should be one that speaks up and takes onus and responsibility of those mistakes. But how do you, when you're making those mistakes, because it's going to happen, how do you maintain confidence and try to, keep that perception of authority, that trust that you need to have as that supervisor?
Well, let me explain some things that happen to new supervisors and, the lack of confidence, maybe because you're new in the position. Remember, knowledge is power. So the more informed you can be, right? And practice as you play, right? I used to take young supervisors and take them into our command post, right? And give them scenarios. And I would take them there within their first week of being a supervisor. When I was a lieutenant, I would take a sergeant. When I was the major, I would take the lieutenant who would run that command post for me and give them scenarios, whether it be a riot, whether it be an escape, whether it be, loss of power, whether it be a hurricane, whatever it is, and ask them, what would you do? And not allow them to read the policies before I did that to them. And what happens is they would have to use whatever experience they had prior to gaining this job or gaining this promotion. So what happens is it would make them think and have some common sense, right? And so I would do this, I would do that. Some would give you that stare like, I don't know what to do. I said, well, tell me what you would do, common sense. And then we compared their answers by reading the policy and following that. And they would find out that they weren't that far off. Because what's great about our profession is that we write everything down. And whatever happens, an incident that occurs, we would write what went right, what went wrong. And whatever we learn becomes policy most of the time. So if you know the rules of the game, you're able to follow those rules when that comes out. But you have to have that prior knowledge, right? You don't need to be a supervisor to be able to read policies, post orders, or even pick the question or pick the mind of those upper people or those positions that you're aspiring to be. How many people can go to you right now, Gangi, and say, look, I'm looking to go into administration, and ask you questions about it, right? So you have to know. Now, are you going to make the wrong decision at one point or another? Yeah. But you know what's going to happen is, one, you need to justify your actions, right? Use common sense. Tell me why you had to deviate from policy, whether you did it or not, whether you followed policy to a T and it turned out to be the wrong decision, right? You have to learn one statement, and this is what I taught a lot of supervisors. No decision is the wrong decision. If you stand there with your, eyes or head in the clouds and you don't make that decision, that's the wrong thing. Make a decision, justify your decision as to why you did it. If it came out wrong, later on, you're going to have an opportunity to sit with your team, the people that you were leading, and discuss, hey, maybe the decision I made wasn't the best one. Next time, this is what we're going to do. That's what we call an after action review in the Army, the services. In corrections, you know, we may call it something else, but what we need to do is discuss what we did, what went right, what went wrong, what we would do in the future to help us. And that's how you build confidence.
And you know what's great about what you're saying, Soto, is some of the best policies and procedures come from mistakes. You know, it does. You know, it comes from the fact that someone made a mistake, was willing first to admit that, you know, they made a mistake. And then that's where the learning begins. I mean, I'm talking about really good, solid learning comes from mistakes and failures. I think confidence for me comes from when you make a mistake, how quick are you to admit, okay, I made a mistake, and then go ahead, and how quick are you to fix it? You know, I mean, the last thing you want to do is make a mistake and then deny its existence. You know, I think the confidence shows by making the mistake and then the trust in yourself to fix that mistake. You know, I think that's what earns that respect. I mean, Connie, what's your thought about confidence when it comes to when you make a mistake and kind of picking yourself back up and just, you know, doing what you can to make it right?
So I think it's okay to take a tactical pause, right? Like, because I think people need to, not everyone can automatically see the bigger picture, see what the broader implications were, truly understand the gravity of that decision, or even the impact that that decision has made either on the facility, the population, the institution, whichever way it went, right? So I think that it's okay if you're not right away jumping in because you don't quite understand what you've done, right? But I think once you've gotten yourself together and you can say, okay, this is where I went wrong, this is what I did, this is what I should have done, or this is what I could have done. I mean, because the woulda, coulda, shouldas, you're going to beat yourself up, but there's a time and a place for that reflection. I think that, yes, you absolutely have to come forward and say, you know, even if it's, you don't even understand how you did it. Yes, I made this decision because the decision, if it was ultimately yours, it was yours. And make it okay to ask questions, right? Like find other managers, other who could possibly help guide you through what went wrong, right? Because I know a lot of places don't do the after action reviews that, you know, Soto's talking about. And so how do you gain the insights that you need in order to not make those decisions again? Or to not make those mistakes again, right? Or maybe there were some components that you didn't even know you should have considered. Like, well, I didn't even know that was a thing. Yeah, but now you do know that. So for the next decision, but I think really and truly, when you make a mistake as a leader, as a manager, like you just have to come forward and you just take ownership for it. But there's nothing wrong with figuring out how to do it better next time.
And guys, I will say this too, confidence brings about consistency, and the consistency brings about trust. So let me just break that down. So if I'm confident in me and my ability, then I start to become consistent because I start to, one, trust myself. But the bigger picture of this is that if I start to trust myself built on the consistency because of confidence, well, then the people that I supervise start to trust me. And then the funny thing is, even if I make a mistake at that point, they're going to trust me to know that, hey, we're still good because he's going to be right there and picking it up. So I think that consistency and trust is extremely important because it really does balance how we are effective behind that wall. If you have supervisors that are not confident, because let's do the adverse of this now, Soto. If you have supervisors that are not confident, they start to become inconsistent. Where's the trust go?
You know, in corrections, right? I can't really, and this goes to new supervisors as well as, you know, senior supervisors or people that have been in the ranks for a minute. I cannot, and I'm going to be tough on you right now. I cannot forgive you for as much downtime as we have in corrections, right? Because we love our war stories. We love coming home and telling our friends, hey, listen, you know, I got the toughest job in the world, right? You wouldn't do my job. I go in there every day. I take my life in my own hands, and we tell all these stories. But you know what? Most of the time we're going in, we're punching in and come out, punch out, and we do our 8 hours, 12 hours, whatever our shifts are. And we have a lot of downtime where nothing happens. Nothing happens. So in that downtime, why don't you take the time out, whether you're a brand new supervisor or aspiring to be a supervisor, and prepare yourself for the things that might happen in the future. Are there going to be fights in our profession? Yes. Are there going to be fires in our profession? Yes. Are there going to be medical emergencies in our profession? Yes. And these are all things that you can think about, read about, look at the policies. How should it be handled before they happen? So I'm not going to forgive you if you don't prepare yourself. So if you are losing confidence because you think you're making wrong decisions, no, you're only going to lose confidence because you haven't taken the time out to educate yourself. Knowledge is power, right? So don't forget. And this is when I take my time with things. Sometimes we don't have the time to think because in our profession, there could be an incident that happens where you have to act immediately. You have to act with some expediency. So I'm going to have to make sure that you know what to do, and not just you as the supervisor. I want my team to know, right? Talk it through. If you have time to involve your team in decision making, you can do so because it builds your team. If you don't have the time, that means they're looking at you to make those quick snap decisions that can save someone's life. So you have to be prepared. Prepare yourself, and the confidence is going to come with the results that you're going to get.
And by the way, confidence comes from the progress, from the process, not from the outcome. Like Soto's saying right now, confidence comes from going through it, going through whatever needs to go through, and then the outcome is the outcome. But I will say this, guys, we also, as frontline and as higher level management that's above those supervisors, we are responsible for those frontline, supervisors' confidence, how we perceive them. We have to make sure that at all times that we don't push them away from being effective, by judging them without really knowing the facts and just making them hesitant and micromanaging. The big key here is that when someone's put in this position of authority, there's a level of trust that we have to give them. And with that level of trust means that we have to let them go. And as long as it doesn't cause any serious threat to the facility, granted, I know it's the type of work we're in, we have to let them make mistakes. Again, as long as it doesn't cause a serious threat to the facility, you have to let that person go through the consequences of a bad choice. Because if you're always sitting there correcting it, then they're not going to build the confidence to work around, like Soto said, and kind of deal with whatever you need to deal with, because the confidence comes from picking yourself back up, not from someone telling you how to pick yourself back up. And Connie, would you agree a big part of that confidence really is, allowing the person to make the decision, maybe watching from a distance, but allowing the person to make a decision, and then kind of just, if there's a consequence, as long as it doesn't threaten the facility, to let that person find his way out of that.
Absolutely. I mean, we learn by doing, right? And if you're just on the sideline, right, no matter how much you read, right, we talk about in being criminal justice professors, right? Like how many professors that didn't work in corrections can give the same insights into a corrections course without actually working in the field. Like all the academic knowledge is there and the kids learn just the same, but there's a different feel to your classroom when you have someone who can bring that knowledge that they learned firsthand from the field and make that textbook sort of live for the student in a different way. And I feel like that's the same feeling you get when you're in a facility. It's kind of like when you're shadowing somebody. When I was new to a facility, I shadowed somebody, but it wasn't until I actually sit and had an interaction with an inmate on my own that I was like, oh, this feels different. Like, it seems like that person knows exactly what they're doing and I don't know nothing, right? But it's not until you actually start to do the work and you start to make those decisions and you actually have the experience of feeling the weight of your decisions, right? Because if it's someone else and you're just looking on, you don't understand everything that came into play when that decision was made. And I feel like that's kind of like the pull, right? Because like when you're training someone, you want them to learn, but it's hard to take your hands off of them because you don't necessarily want them to fall. You know the impact of that decision and you don't want it to damage their career, or you don't want it to have an impact on the frontline staff, right? But it's not until we do let go the reins and we allow people to kind of like make those decisions and carry the weight of those decisions and whatever those outcomes are, that they will learn firsthand, you know, what they should and shouldn't do. And they'll think about ways that maybe I wasn't prepared to make this decision. Maybe I didn't read that last policy. Maybe, you know, like they start thinking about it, because it's different when someone's kind of pointing the finger and telling you all the things you did or didn't do, as opposed to someone who can take a step back and say, oh, I forgot that. You know, I think it matters that we let go and allow for managers to make those mistakes and figure it out and clean up the mess, because they've got to be a part of the cleaning process.
Right. And guys, I just want to make it clear that this isn't sink or swim. Sink and swim leaves you with no resources, which destroys your confidence, because part of having confidence is knowing your resources are. You know, you can't have confidence if you don't know where to go. Even the same thing, you know, what makes someone an expert technically is because they know how to find the answers. Doesn't mean they know everything. They just know where to go to find answers that have value, that have validity. Well, same thing here. You know, when you want to have confidence, confidence is sometimes knowing that you don't know the answer, but knowing how to get to those answers. So we're not telling you in any way, shape, or form that this is the old-fashioned sink or swim, because sink or swim is just throwing you out there and forgetting about you. If you notice how what we said here was that there's someone in the distance watching you, you know, making sure that you're not going too far from the path. And I think having that level of resource, you know, could also give you that confidence, because because I remember for me real quick, when I got into the administrative position at the facility I'm at a facility that is no joke, guys. It is. It's very, very busy. I don't talk about it for much, but just to relate to my story here is I was told for my first 2 weeks when I crossed into administration, now mind you, I had the foundation of an officer and a sergeant at two, you know, very unique places, but each place giving me something solid I could work with. But then when I became crossed into the administrative side, now mind you guys, I jumped multiple levels. I didn't realize how much I didn't know until I got into that position. And I said, wow, I can't believe the stuff I'm going to have to learn. But I had a pretty good foundation. It wasn't like I had to learn something from just coming in on the streets and be totally, not having anywhere to reference. I had a good foundation. So for 2 weeks, what I did was, my job from my mentor, the person that brought me into the position, was watch everything around you. Don't get involved. But more importantly, this is your number one assignment. Watch the dynamic of the people. Look at the people. So all I did for 2 weeks was watch. I didn't take notes. I didn't do any of that, because I didn't even know what the hell I was supposed to study. All I did was just watch people. I watched the dynamic. I watched the interactions. I got an understanding of which departments represented, which person represented each department, and how the dynamics between the different departments worked, because this was really the first time where I had to know, I had to see it. And then finally, when the person just came up to me and said, okay, Gange, cage is open, go fly, I was shocked how much I picked up by just passively taking stuff in, learning the dynamic, and just kind of getting an understanding of, how this facility flows. But in the process, I want you guys to know something. The person did that for me because they wanted me to be ready to make decisions. That's why they gave me those 2 weeks to kind of learn the dynamic and then get ready to make some decisions. But I promise you, like Soto said too, is before I made a decision, the person wanted me to justify it to them. Why? And I started feeling confident because I had, one thing is I saw the dynamic, collected a lot of stuff passively, but I found a resource. And that resource really was someone that really had built my confidence to the point where I feel I'm more effective today because of that person that was in the background, just kind of quietly letting me go out there and then just letting me make my decisions, but, you know, not leaving me alone. That's the key, but giving me enough freedom to, you know, fall or rise. I mean, what's your thoughts on that type of training, Soto? I thought that was unique. And you, without saying their name, you know who that was for me, obviously, but what's your thoughts?
No, it's wonderful to have someone like that can entrust you with just that particular time frame. Listen, just take your time, observe what's around you, take a look at, and you can learn from people that make good decisions as well as people that make bad decisions, right? You can learn from both. Something that keeps tweaking in the back of my mind as we're having the discussion is, you know, that question about the person that you're saying that gave you the idea of this topic, saying, I don't know if I want to take that position. And I'm telling you, maybe because they're saying I'm not confident enough. I'm telling you, I'm confident in you because you've already taken that first step. You reached out to a resource, right? You reached out and you said, you know what, I'm having second thoughts. No, you're doing the wonderful thing. You already reached out. You have a resource. And I can tell you, I have confidence in you. And I haven't even met you yet. But I don't want you to pass up a great opportunity to do and move up in your life, right? Because it'll change your life being a supervisor. You're leading people, right? It's going to change your life. Not forget about making a little bit more money, having a little bit more responsibility. You're going to build that confidence as you continue to experience this job. And you have the backup. We're here to back you up. And there's plenty of people in your field who have the expertise that will share that with you.
Yeah, and guys, don't forget, guys, this is a position you develop into. So you really don't know if you're capable or not until you kind of put on the shoes. And, you know, especially at this point, I'm not talking about entering the profession. I'm talking about taking that next level, because we all could find excuses to run away from something. But like Soto said, you're at that point now where people are starting to see you as a supervisor. They want to try to get you to embrace that position. You know, you should give it a try. And here's the cool thing. If you can't, then you could be honest with yourself and say, you know what, at this time, it may not be for me. But the key is that there must be something in you, like Soto said, that's motivating you to move up. And just, we got resources here, you know, so there is some level of confidence, you know, and I think that's just something that you're going to have to maintain. That's from you, that's inwards. Hey, Connie, I'm sorry, Connie. Soto, do you have anything you'd like to say in closing?
You know, it's a wonderful discussion, and I love this topic because it's near to my heart. I love it. I think I'm going to end up actually doing a leadership course where I'm going to offer it to people, you know, so that because you have to share. You have to share. Don't be afraid. Be motivated to move up, you know, and as always, be healthy and stay safe. Remember, we have confidence in you because you have already reached out. And I know there's people out there thinking about it. Let someone else do it. No, you can do it. You can do it and keep up the good work.
Well, you know, so if you ever get that leadership work, let me know. We'll put it through the venue. I'm sure my audience would love to see that. Hey, Connie, author. By the way, hold on. I got to get this out before we go. I noticed the bullshit you did when you said we college professors, we criminal justice professors.
Oh my God.
I didn't notice that shit.
way. And I've been thinking about it since I said it. I'm like, I did not mean it that way. And I'm going to tell you to take it out. That's what I was going to tell you.
I'm keeping it. I got taken out. I got taken out
that way. Soto, you got to help me. I didn't mean it that way.
It's okay. He's a little jealous. That's all.
Oh my goodness.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
Hey, Connie, anything else you would like to say in closing?
Listen, I just want to say confidence is everything, right? And anyone who first starts something, you know, you're going to be a little nervous, and that's normal. right? You're going to step into this new role and, you know, you may make some missteps, but the reality is that you have your entire time to build network, to ask questions, to reach out to your colleagues and ask questions. When you're uncertain, ask questions. Like, people around you want to help. People around you, they want to be a resource. And sometimes just because you worked in a particular space, or, you know, maybe you never had to work with social services before, maybe you didn't have to work with medical before, but those are all resources to you. So I would just say, the more you engage with other aspects of corrections, the bigger picture you begin to see, and the more confidence you're going to have as you start to navigate the world.
Yeah, guys, just in closing for me is, don't be afraid to make a mistake. And again, if you're in a higher position or you're in that front line, guys, be careful how, when you have that, you know, that supervisor and they do make a mistake, be careful how you react to that, because that's ultimately going to be your leader. So the last thing you want to do is have a leader that's hesitant. And what about if you find out that you're the reason why that leader's hesitant? Because you judge the person before understanding where that decision's come from. The key here is that I was always willing to learn from the front line, as well as those that have, you know, wore the badge before me. So the thing is, if you're going to be quick to judge me every time I make a decision, then I just may stop making decisions. You know, how scary is that when your supervisor decides to stop making a decision? And how many of us will actually go back and wonder if that's our fault? Did we cultivate that? How do you have a frontline professional that's so willing to make decisions, and then all of a sudden they become that supervisor and they're caught in the middle, and now they just stop making decisions? Whose fault is that? Just curious. But again, don't be afraid to make mistakes. As always, guys, the show is tiered. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post up a video. Stay safe.